Okay, welcome everybody to the Wednesday night shiur. The topic this week, you may wonder why I chose the topic this week, but we'll get to it. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. That's my disclaimer. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. We're just going to examine the sources. It's timely, as we'll see. It's connected a little bit to Purim. And the inspiration for the shiur, really, which is about the Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin, the Tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam. Of course, we know everybody wears Rashi tefillin, but there's also Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. And you see Chassidim wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, many Sfardim wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, and many others also do. And we're going to examine today a little bit the sugya of Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of things we're going to skip. We're not really going to drill down to the actual machlekes. We're not going to go back to the Gemara and analyze all the differences. We're going to have a little bit of the basics. The difference between Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. There are more differences as well. And there's a lot to talk about. There's the historical evidence, the archaeological evidence, there's all sorts of stuff. But we're going to kind of just zero in the best we can. Once again, as usual, luckily this week I discovered some new interesting. Oh, I forgot one of my books at home. Okay, I'm going to have to do without it. And we do have some first-time guests in the shiur this week. Source number 10 is a first-time guest. There might be some others, I'm not 100% sure, but I always enjoy the first-time guests who are shiur and even the repeat guests. So the topic is Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin. It really should say Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin, Purim 1976. That's what the title really should be. Purim 1976. So we're going to go back in the archives to the Purim Farbrengen with the Lubavitcher Rebbe in 770 Eastern Parkway, Purim 1976. Exactly 50 years ago. That is the motivation, the inspiration for the topic today. And the shiur is graciously sponsored by Baruch and his Rebbetzin Greenbaum. They'll cover the Yortzeit actually tonight. Tes Adar of his mother, Miriam Bashmul, her neshama should have an aliyah. And also sponsored graciously by Nir Dayan and his Rebbetzin in honor of for the upcoming Yortzeit Yud Gimel Adar. We still have a week or so, not quite a week. Yud Gimel Adar, the Yortzeit of his father Shimon ben Meir. The neshama should have an aliyah. So the Torah we learned tonight in Mitzvah Hashem should be in Zchus for the neshamas of Miriam Bashmuel and Shimon ben Meir. And we should be zeicher, most importantly, to the coming of Mashiach when we can figure out exactly Rashi Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin. Actually, I didn't put it on the page. A little pages. The Aruch HaShulchan has a whole beer where he tries to explain a whole zoyar about really the difference between Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. It's different time periods in history, the Messianic era, the whole different thing is explained. But I left it off, so that'll be for another follow-up shiur. We'll do the Aruch HaShulchan. But the neshama should have an aliyah, and we should be zeicher becoming a Mashiach when we'll have to chis Mason and Hashem. Okay, let's jump right in. So number one is the Gemara Masechta Megillah. And that's the connection to Purim. And this was the lead-in in the Purim Farbrengen in 1976. By the way, the Rebbe spoke about numerous what had become basically iconic Chabad ideas. This is not the purpose of the shiur is not to push Chabad agenda. Everybody who comes to shiur knows that. We don't really have an agenda other than learning Torah. Everybody knows that. But it happens to be, I would be remiss if I didn't say that particular Purim Farbrengen, I don't know what was going on there 50 years ago, but there are a few things. First of all, Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin, which became synonymous in a sense of Chabad, and of course other Chassidim and Sfardim as well. But I think people know every Lubavitcher Bacher, it could be like 4 feet tall, tiny little guy, but he's got his 2 tefillin bags. But the Rebbe also spoke at that Farbrengen about the importance of visiting prisoners in jails and prisons to bring. Why should they not have the mitzvahs also? They can make a Megillah, Matanas Levyanim, and so on and so forth. They're Jews also. Okay, they committed a crime. They're in jail, but and the Rebbe spoke about the whole idea of incarceration. How does it help a person to take away their Yiddishkeit from them, to not allow them to do mitzvahs? Okay, they're incarcerated. Whole discussion of itself. Maybe one day we'll do a shiur on incarceration. That might actually be interesting. A shiur on jail, incarceration in halacha and machshava. But anyway, the Rebbe quoted the Gemara, famous Gemara. I'm sure many people here have learned Masechta Megillah before. La Yehudim ha'isa oira v'simcha v'sosim v'kar. Pasuk in the Megillah, right? That's one of the highlights in the entire Megillah. For the Jewish people, there was oira v'simcha, there was light and there was joy, v'sosim, and there also joy, v'yakar and beauty or glory. That's the pasuk. Amar Rav Yehuda, Zokta Rav Yehuda, oira zu Torah. Each of these four things that are mentioned, Oira, Simcha, Sosan, and Ikar, represent and refer to different mitzvahs. Oira zu How do we know it's Teira? So we see Ner, the light, is compared to Teira. Or, I'm sorry, Ner is a mitzvah and Teira is Or. Fine. So Teira is Or. Simcha is a Yantif. Simcha is Yantif. Pesach's coming. Rejoice in your holidays. That's Simcha. So Simcha is Yantif. Sosoin Zumila. Sosoin, I guess joy. I'm not sure the best translation exactly. Zumila. That's the Bris Milah. I rejoice upon your saying, which is the covenant of the Bris Milah. V'yakar, what's yakar? The glory or the beauty. Elu Tefillin. Those are the Tefillin. And the pasuk says, that all the nations of the world will see that the name of God is upon you. They will fear you. The Rebbe quoted this pasuk extensively, multiple times in 1967, before the 6-Day War broke out, and the Rebbe launched the Tefillin campaign. It's also, of course, synonymous with Chabad. Really, it should be synonymous with every Jew, of course, goes without saying. And the Rebbe quoted this pasuk time again and again and again regarding the importance of putting tefillin on, specifically on soldiers. Again, the war had not yet broken out, but it was impending. The energy was in the air. People knew there was going to be war. They anticipated there was going to be something, right? There was a lot of hostility. The Rebbe repeatedly quoted this pasuk. Putting the tefillin on the soldiers will strike fear in the hearts of our enemies. Okay. So what is it that the Gentiles will see, the nations of the world, and they'll fear you? The tefillin. Fine. So the machloikes. So that's the connection of Purim. That's the connection of Purim. And the Gemara says Masechta Brachos, everything goes after the conclusion, after the end. Dessert. If you leave the meal with a bad taste in your mouth, it doesn't work, right? So the last word, the dessert of the pasuk. La Yehud Oida V'Simcha V'Zazayin V'Yakar. Yakar Elu Tefillin. So everything goes after the conclusion. Tefillin is everything in a certain sense. So again, we're not going to go and do a deep dive, maybe another time, into the machloikes. Where did it come up, the Tefillin of Rashi Rabbeinu Tam? We're not going to go to the psukim, but just for the basics. We have here a little illustration about what is basically the difference on the right, Shitas Rashi, and on the left, Shitas Rabbeinu Tam. So you see on the picture on Rashi, for example, that's the halacha, that's the halacha psuka, right? Everybody knows the halacha does not follow Rabbeinu Tam. The halacha follows Rashi. And you see on the right, it says Yomin Hamaniach, right? So the question is what order the parsha is going. So right away, as soon as you ask what order the parsha is going, you have to ask the following question. From whose perspective? From me, I'm wearing the tefillin, and I'm wondering from my right to my left, or maybe you are looking at me. So from your right, which would be my left. So we're going this way, or are we going this way? That's the question we have to ask immediately. Was as soon as we say, what's the seder of the parshas, right? So you see Rashi, the illustration here of Rashi says Yomin Hamaniach. That's the right side of the person putting them on. So you're saying it's from the perspective of the one wearing them. You have V'hoy, right to left, V'hoyim Shemoya, then Shema, then V'hoy Kiviyacha, and then Kaddish Shli, the four parshas. Again, we're not going to go into the details of the four parshas and so forth. Whereas Shitas Rabbeinu Tam, if you look on the left diagram, again, Yomin HaManiach, the right side, it's Shema, then V'hoyim Shemoya, then V'hoy Kiviyacha, then Kaddish Shli, different order. That's same parshas.
So
Parshas. No, parshas are the same. Okay. Parshas are the same. The difference is the order, which has a nafkamina also, by the way, with how you write. This is the picture here, the illustrations here. As you can see, the four compartments are obviously the tefillin shel rosh, right? What about the tefillin shel yad? So there's a nafkamina in this as well, depending, because there's two things. Number one, there's the order in which the parshas go in the tefillin themselves. Number two, there's the order that they have to be written as well. So if you're writing them in order as they appear in the Chumash, then when you write the Tefillin Shel Yad, right, the Tefillin Shel Yad, you ever open up a Tefillin Shel Yad? Don't do it, unless you're a Sefer. Is one long parsha, right? It's one long parchment. And the Sefer writes, and he goes through, writes to the end. That's if he's writing them Kesidron. However, the Shitas Rabbeinu Tam, they don't go in that same Seder. They're not Kesidron, meaning the way they actually appear. And therefore, the Sofer has to write them out of order. So he has to write, leave a blank space, write something else, then come back and fill in that space with the other appropriate parsha. Because not only do they have to appear in a certain order, they have to be written in a certain order. That's not the topic for today. I'm just pointing that out. There is another point as well. Maybe we'll come back to this later. Is do the parshas go like this in the Tefillin? Do they go like this, vertical, or do they go horizontal? The lesser spoken about issue, but we're probably not going to address that today. Okay, good. The Gemara source number one.
Question: should they be written this way or the opposite way?
This way.
How do you read it? If depending on the order.
Well, it doesn't really matter because they're inserted like this, and they're rolled. Well, rolled or folded, kind of rolled, folded, whatever. And then it ties the whole thing. You tie around it. Okay. Anyway, source number two. I don't think we ever had source number two in one of the Wednesday night shiurim. However, I did speak about it one of the Friday nights between Mincha and Maya. Remember? It is Kislev. That's right. It is Kislev. That's right. I knew you'd remember that. Shaila Zechuvas Min HaShamayim was written in sometime in the 13th century. I don't have dates and the precise dates. Sometime in the 13th century. Rabbi Yaakov Halevi, if I can pronounce his last name, Marvish or Marvej, I don't know how to pronounce the name. French. It was French. 13th century. And I guess he was a pretty big tzaddik. And he would ask questions and go up to Shamayim in his dreams or whatever, and would get answers to these questions. So we mentioned the Yotes Kislev, that it's the only date mentioned in Shalosh Zechuvas Min HaShamayim is Yotes Kislev. And it's mentioned as a Yom Besura, as an auspicious special day. Although it doesn't say why. But so Void Sha'alti al Seder Parshish B'Tefillin. Now, the obvious question here, Shittas Rashi, Shittas Rabbeinu Tam, the obvious question is, don't we just paskin halacha? Like, what's so complicated here? All through Shas, we have different opinions, and at the end of the day, we paskin however we paskin. Whatever the rules of psak are, and the Machaber, and the Ramah, and whatever it is, there's a psak halacha that's accepted by Klal Yisrael. Right? Okay, you have variations and so forth, but how do we get to these different opinions? Like, let's take it a step back. What kind of tefillin did Moshe Rabbeinu wear? What kind of tefillin did I don't want to say Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam? What kind of tefillin did the Rambam? Well, Rambam we know he held like Shittas Rashi. What kind of tefillin did they wear since Moshe Rabbeinu until now? Don't they have to say the caver of Yechezkel and Navi? They found Rashi tefillin in there. So why is it so why is it so hard to figure this out? There's two types of tefillin. Rashi, there's really more. We're not going to speak about the other ones. Why can't we just paskin and move on with our lives? Like, it's not so complicated, seemingly. So let's take a look. Shut min hashamayim.
But I thought they do paskin. Don't they say that you can't make a bracha on Rabbeinu Tam?
That's correct. You cannot make a bracha on Rabbeinu Tam. That's correct. The shaila is Minchas Elazar has a shaila. Minchas Elazar asks. We had him a couple of weeks ago. And we have him again. A different sefer that called Ois Chaim. Don't worry. I called Bigal Eisen today and asked if they have it. And you know what he said? Call me tomorrow. I think we might be able to get it. Which means it'll be shipped here soon if they have it. Okay, I can't resist. I'm sorry. So the Munkasher is asked the Shaila, what if a person in all noble intentions goes to shul in the morning, but maybe he's not entirely awake or something, and he accidentally says the bracha and puts on a Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. And after that, he realizes what happened. First of all, does he have to put on the Rashis?
Yeah.
Of course. The Psak Halach is like Rashi. The question is, do you have to say bracha on Rashis? That's the question. Anyway, not for our topic today. V'oid sha'alti, shut min hashamayim. V'oid sha'alti, I'll say the passage, but tefillin, I asked, means I asked in Shamayim, what is the correct seder of the parshas? Tell me, Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam, tell me the answer, I'll wear those tefillin. Listen, so this is what I asked. This was my question. Ona melcha godel giba v'neira. Please, the great king, the great and powerful and awesome king, Chacham Arazim, the know, the wise, I don't know how to translate it even. The wisdom of secrets, the knower of secrets, Magali Nistoris, reveals the secrets, Magid Nalomus, he tells that which is hidden, Shemer Abris Ve'achesed, he guards our covenant and the kindness. Increase your chesed with us hayoim today. And instruct your angels, your holy angels, to tell me already. No, I'm waiting already. We don't know what's the correct seder. Have your angels hook me up and tell me what's the seder. What a question, eh? Some chachamim say, by some we mean Rabbeinu Tam, that the Havaya is right. Look at the diagram on the top, right? Look at the two ones in the middle. V'hoya im shamoya and v'hoya kiviyacha. He says they go in the middle. V'im hechlif, and if you switch it around, says Rabbeinu Tam, psulos. Tefillin are no good. Next paragraph. But there are others, meaning Rashi and all those who support Rashi. Ha'oimrim Havayos Kisidra. No, it goes in order. First comes V'hoya im shamoya, then Shema Yisrael, then V'hoya kiviyacha, then Kaddish Li. It goes in order. V'mechlif, and if you switch up that order, psulos. So according to Rashi, Rabbeinu Tam's are possible. According to Rabbeinu Tam, Rashi's are possible. So frek the Shut Ben Hashamayim Rabbi Yaakov Alevi from Marvej, or however you pronounce it. Hashem, please instruct your angels to tell me what is the correct order. V'ato now melch melochim tzivul malachecha k'deshim lo yidieni alocha k'divrei mi. Once again, Hashem, please instruct your angels who is the halacha in accordance with.
Who came first, Rabbeinu Tam or Rashi?
Rashi.
So
The shaila is, what happened with the Rabbeinu Tam? At his bar mitzvah mestama, he put on Rashi tefillin. No?
yeah, he must have.
Maybe he even did like Chabad and did 2 months before the bar mitzvah. Maybe he even did like the Mogen Avram, who says in Shulchan Aruch you should put tefillin on 3 months before the bar mitzvah. You ever met anybody who does that? Even Chabad, if we're crazy, we even don't do it. We do only 2 months. Some people do 1 month. Some people do a couple of weeks. Some people do the day before. Some people do that day itself. The main thing is put them on, right? So for Rabbeinu Tam, by his Anachos Tefillin, maybe by his Bamit Mistana or Rashi Tefillin, what happened that one day Rabbeinu Tam was like, these are no good. Was he a Sefer? What did he do? Between the time he realized that his Tefillin were no good, because he following Rashi, who follows Rashi? Psulos, he says. He either wrote, I don't know, was he a Sefer? I don't think so. I don't know. Either wrote the Tefillin himself or he had his Sefer, write new Tefillin, now he can wear Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin. Or did he wear both? I don't know. Okay. And the words of whom, in the opinion of whom, do you cherish? So who is in plain English, who is the halacha like? Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam? Yeah? Gishmak question, right? What a question to ask. Unbelievable. And the answer is Shiva. And by the way, he's the kind of guy that not only, I could also ask a question from Hashem and his angels, and that God, please let me know through the angels, okay? I could also ask, but I don't know if I could answer. But obviously, even the asking, even the question is different. He was mamish. I guess he somehow was able to ask. I don't know how you do these things, but and they responded as follows: Elu ve'elu divil kimchaim. Both are true. Both are correct. Both are the words of the living God. Lamata, just like you have a machlokes lamata down there in France where you live. Kach machlokes lamayla. It's machlokes in heaven as well. HaKadosh Baruch Hu oimer, listen to this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu oimer havayos be'emtza. Whose opinion is that? Rabbeinu Tam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says like the opinion of Rabbeinu Tam. Kivaldik. V'chol pamayl shal mayla, but the entire yeshiva up in Shamayim, oimer havayos kisidron, like a Rashi. V'hu asher dibur Hashem b'kroi v'ayakadosh v'alpanei cholam ekoved. And that's what the pasuk means, talking about Aaron HaKohen. I'm sorry, talking about Aaron HaKohen as his kids, Dotan and Aviram.
No,
No, and that's I knew something. Didn't say.
not every Avim.
Thank you. No, the Navir doesn't have your one.
Yeah. Those are bad guys.
Which planet am I on? I'm not on Rashi's planet. I'm not on Rabbeinu Tam's planet. Bekrova, I will be sanctified through those who are close to me. That's not the Navir, right? So he's applying that to the angels. Because who do we paskin like? Rashi. Rashi is the angels. And the covet of Hashem really is that Parshas Shema, that's Parshas Malchus Shamayim, should be first. First means in the middle first. Closest to the middle. Okay. Let's take a look. Source number 3, the Ben Ish Chai. Ben Ish Chai, did we have him before in one of the Shurim? I don't know. Ben Ish Chai is my favorite, not that we're choosing favorites, my favorite commentary on the Agadata of Shas. This is like my go-to. Maharal's close second, maybe. Marsha should be probably number 1, I suppose, but the Ben Ish Chai, it was Yosef Chaim of Baghdad, 1835 to 1909. It's like in 1909, I don't know, maybe because I just turned 50. 1909 doesn't sound that long ago. Like that long ago. Ben Ish Chai, you imagine, unbelievable tzaddik, Baki B'Shas, Halacha, he wrote Trials and Shuvas, it was Chidushim and Shas, unbelievable tzaddik, tremendous. His svarim of the Halacha is like it's like the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch basically, for Svardim, more or less. But he brings their unbelievable inyanim. So he says over there, Ben Ish Chai says, Arba parshas yesh Tefillin, Kaddish, v'hoy kviyacha, Shema v'him shemoy. These are the 4 parshas. V'zeh seder halachasan. Okay, we're going to skip that because we save time. 4th line in the middle, right in the middle of the 4th line. V'hine betchila. When's betchila the beginning? When's the beginning? I don't know. Hayu choshvin machlekes zu kishar machlekes. People used to think the machlekes of Rashi Rabbeinu Tam was like any other machlekes in Shas and Rishayim, Machreinim, whatever it was. Shesvara achas batla, that one svara, which was basically thrown out, basically, because for whatever reason, one of the approaches, one of the svaras was taken to be superior. Maybe he had better proofs, maybe he had better support, maybe more people saw it, whatever the reasons. So the other svara is batal. That's usually the way it works in halacha. We paskin like A, not like B. What do? We do A. We don't paskin like A. Let's do A and B. What do you mean? Although a friend of mine today, I was discussing this with a friend of mine, Eli back in the Shaliach University of Maryland, the Geshmak Yid. He says to me, you have this by Mezuzah also. Mezuzah says, opinion of the Gemara says, you either go like this or like this. What do? We do like this. Well, Ashkenazim at least. Sephardim go like this. And the descendants of the girls go like this. It's like this is good, this, and we do this. Compromise. That's some people want to say that it's a message for a newlywed. As soon as you come into the home, the first thing you see is the mezuzah. It's at a slant, only for the Ashkenazim, not for the Sephardim. So it tells you about compromise when you enter the home. Okay. Anyway. So but so people used to think, yeah, Machlekes Rashi Rabbeinu Tam. But you know what? They duked it out, and you know who won? Rashi, best man is standing. Says the Ben Ish Chai, but no, that's not what happened. Bor Rabbeinu Harizal came along the Harizal. V'higid b'kabala mipi Eliyahu zochel l'toiv, and he was told by Eliyahu Hanavi, sheshnei asvaras emes, both are true. Just like we saw in the Shut Min HaShamayim. Elu ve'elu divulakim chayim. V'tzorich leme'avad tarvayim. Really got to do both. U'miyamois Moshe Rabbeinu va'ada ge'oinim. From the times of Moshe Rabbeinu until the ge'oinim, which is before, right? It's the generations before. Year 8 inside you're going, whatever, high going, the 800s, the 900, I don't exactly know when the period of the Goinim ended and shifted to the Rishayim, but before Rashi, exactly, in right time. So from the days of Moshe Rabbeinu until the Goinim, Hayimanichim base Zugos, they wore 2 pairs of tefillin, Rashi made a tam. And it says, he's Madak, and in fact, the Chayin is a big Gemara. And if you look carefully in the Gemara, you'll actually see a hint to that. Where do we see it hinted to where it's tefillin? The Gemara says, Mokam Yesh Perush Lohanich by Beis Zugos. Why is the Gemara telling you that there's room to put 2 pairs? Why is the Gemara telling you that for? Because you should put 2 pairs. That's what he says. the Ben Ish Chai also sometimes called the Ben Yehoyada because apparently he traveled to Eretz Yisrael and had a Ruach HaKodesh or something, and was told that he is a Gilgul, a reincarnation of the neshama of Benayahu Ben Yehoyada. And then he named some of his svarim Ben Yehoyada. That's the name of his svarim on his chidushim on Agartha and Shas. Tremendous, unbelievable stuff there. Okay.
So can I ask, why is it called Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam if it was from Moshe?
That's a good question. I don't really have an answer other than to say those are the people that duked it out. That's kind of where it came to a head. You know, you have that other times in halach as well, where a certain opinion is attributed to so-and-so is not necessarily where it originated necessarily. Opinions originate in other places, but maybe where it kind of comes to a head is, so here was Rashi and Tam. Okay, let's now jump to the Shulchan Aruch. We're jumping quite a few, well, whatever. Not so much, I guess. We're jumping backwards actually from Ben Ish Chai. Shulchan Aruch. Simon Lamed Dalet in Orach Chaim, which is where it discusses the Parshias, the Seder of the Parshias. And he writes, and Sif based on the right, Yirei Shamayim. Sif Aleph is discussing the order of the Parshias, which again, we're not going to go into detail. That'll take us forever to go through all the details, but we can look back at the picture on the previous page. And the Mechaber Paskins as follows. Yirei Shamayim, Yatza Yirei Shtein. A person who is a Yirei Shamayim, we were talking about that before. How do you know who's Yirei Shamayim? It's hard to tell. Well, if you are Yirei Shamayim, says the Shulchan Aruch, should wear both of them. V'yaseh shtei zuga is tefillin. Should wear both, 2 pairs of tefillin, Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. V'yinich shtein, put on both of them. What about Bal Tosef? Not allowed to add. You can just add to things. So first of all, one approach is that Bal Tosef would only be if you would make a 5th parsha on the tefillin. But says the Mechaber, v'yechaven manachosan, and while you are placing those tefillin on, you should have in mind but oisam shehem aliba de hilchasa, the pair of tefillin, whether they're Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam, the ones that are the real halacha, the true emes halacha, and yotzi de chayvasi, those are the ones I'm wearing l'shem mitzvah. Those are the ones that my bracha was going on. The ashar and all the other pair of tefillin I have on here, those are not tefillin. Hein k'netzuz ba'alma. They're just leather straps. I'm wearing them, but it's leather. Don't get excited. Direct quote from the Gemara that we just mentioned. Because you have room to put on 2 pairs, and each pair could still be in the correct location.
Yeah, but according to what you just said, the one that you don't make the bracha on, if it's just Ritsuos, it's still considered, we'll put in quotes, a second pair of tefillin? Or is it just leather boxes?
It's a good question. It gets, I think, a little bit more confusing, to me at least. Later.
That's why you don't say a bracha, because you don't want to. The mitzvah is on the first one.
That's the reason I'll pee halacha, we don't say the bracha. That's right. It's the reason I'll pee Kabbalah, we don't say the bracha also. But that's. We may come back to your point in I think in source number. Huh?
Because 11.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. But in Aleph, Sif Aleph, which we don't have on the page, Sif Aleph, the Mechaber passes like Rashi. Everybody passes like Rashi. There's nobody passes like Ben Tam. But in Sif Beis, by the way, since we have this machlekes here, again, it's a little bit unusual. Not every machlekes that we have to follow both opinions, right? That's what Shulchan Aruch is for. Shulchan Aruch is tell me which opinion we follow. But Yerushalayim should wear both pairs, and there's room for both pairs. And the ones that are the actual halacha, those are the ones that I'm wearing in the L'Shem Mitzvah. The other ones are Ritzuas Va'alma. They're like straps, leather straps. The Chaim is same thing on the bicep. There's room on your bicep, also wear 2 pairs. Period. Says the Mechaber, point number 2. If you don't know exactly where to place your tefillin, because of course we know the halacha is that if it's too far back, too far forward, then you're not yotzi anyway. So yotzas charbev seidai. You're trying to put on 2 pairs of tefillin to be extra firm, to be your shemayim. Maybe you didn't put on any person to wear them properly. So says the Mechaber, if you don't know precisely where they go, you don't know how to put them on at the same time, then you should wear the Rashi one first, and then then remove them. Miyad means after davening, I think. And put the second pair on, i.e. Rabbeinu Tam, relying on the bracha that you already made. I made a bracha before, so I didn't interrupt because I was oisik in the mitzvah. Didn't interrupt. Period. So what does he want you to do? One second. Really did the Chavin Amugim Minich Shteim Yachad. No, I'm sorry. I said it wrong. I'm sorry. The Mechaber is saying here what we see some Sfardim do nowadays. Rabbi Tzadka does this. Some other Sfardim do. He's saying to put them both on together, to where the Rashi and the Beit Tam at the same time. He's just saying if you don't know how to put them literally both on at the same time, like how to take the Rashi and the Beit Tam, knock them into the place at the exact same time, then put first the Rashis and then the Beit Tam, but wear them both at the same time. That's what he's saying. And same thing with the bicep. However, there are those who say, if you don't know how to do that, if you don't know how to put them on together, then Rashi, first put on Rashi, and say the bracha. I think I said this wrong too.
How did you spell it?
Yeah. No, that's I realize I'm reading it wrong. But yeah, he wants you to
Say the bracha, put one on, take it off.
take it off, put on the second pair, yeah.
The bracha goes on both.
Yeah. Okay. But if you can't put them on together, basically, then he says, Yanir shel Rashi, put on the Rashis, v'yivarach aleim, say the bracha. V'yu Allah b'shas kishma v'tefillah, and wear them for davening. V'achar tefillah, after davening, take off the Rashis. V'yanir shel Rabbeinu tam b'loi bracha, then put on the Rabbeinu tam without a bracha. V'yikra b'hem shma v'hayim shmoya, and read certain parshias. So, we got a little bit confused there. I'm sorry. I got a little bit confused. Option number one, put them on. If you're a Yer Shemayim, put them on together. If you can't put the mamish on at the same instant, then put on one and then put on the other, fine. However, Yesh Oimrim, if you can't do that, put on Rashi and daven normally. After davening, remove the Rashi and put on the Rabbeinu Tam. Next halacha, sif gimel. Lo yasa kain ela mishal muchzak b'mafresh mechsidis. Don't do that. What's that? Don't do that unless you are have a presumptive status of being a well-known person who is pious. Meaning, people know you're pious. People know you're a Yer Shemayim. Lo yasa kain. Don't do that. What's that? Don't do that unless you are a pious individual.
If you're pious, you're not Yira.
Say it again.
So the first thing that you put together is that you have Yira, Shemayim. The second thing is that you're pious.
No. If you're a Yirei Shamayim, if you have fear of heaven, you should wear Rabbeinu Tam, Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam tefillin.
Together.
How exactly should you do it? Okay, there's two different ways. Then Sif Gimel, don't do this unless you are a pious individual. What's the this? We're going to see. Source number 5, the Ber Hativ. Moving right along. The Ber Hativ, there's two Ber Hativs. There's a Ber Hativ on all 4 parts of Shulchan Aruch. However, the author of the Ber Hativ in Orach Chaim, what we're reading now, and Even HaEzer is one person. The author of Ber Hativ in Yerodei and Chashin Mishpat is someone else. This one is Yehuda ben Shimon Ashkenazi. He lived in the 18th century in Poland. Bechsidis, he's commenting on pages of Shulchan Aruch. He's commenting on the words Bechsidis. Doesn't mean the Chassidic movement here. It's nothing to do with Chabad and Breslov and anything like that. Piety. Nishalti. I was asked, Al ish echad shahaya negla hanich tefillin shel Rabbeinu Tam la'achar tefillah b'far hesya b'fnei hakol. Someone asked me, there was a certain guy in shul, I guess. He used to put on his Rabbeinu Tam tefillin after davening out in public. Everybody saw him do it. Is this considered arrogant, hubris? Meaning, it's as if to say, guys, look who's pious here. Me, see, got my Rabbeinu Tam tefillin on. Pasuk b'tshuvas Maharash Alevi. The Mechse, yeah, take. Yeah, that's very arrogant to do that, to put on your Rabbeinu Tam tefillin in public. In shul, I mean, you want to put them on? Go home. Go and put them on at home. But you have to stop doing it. Cannot put on your Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. It doesn't say not to put on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. You can't do it in shul where everybody sees you. The Shuvah Shvus Yaakov. Shafilim makes us even if some people do it, still yesh by mishum yura. It's arrogant to do that, as if to brag. Look how pious I am. If you put on your Rabbeinu Tam tefillin in front of a chosh of a person who he himself doesn't put them on in public, he does it in private in his home. That's for sure arrogant. As the big Rav, he's not even putting on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin in public, and I am. I'm mamish arrogant. However, I am b'sefer matzah shmurim, which we don't have. I didn't bring that here. Shekosav she's a chiyuv, that it's actually an obligation to wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, not a minhag, not for a Yerushalayim, but actually an obligation. For kibalti, this is very. I left out, by the way, the scariest source of the Kamarna Rebbe, the Kamarna Rev or something. I left it out because it was too. I saw it quoted somewhere as being like, see his Dvara of Hamafhilim or something like that. Go see his like shocking words. It was like, how bad could they be? So I looked it up in Oitzah Chachma and I was like, oh yeah, it's pretty bad. Okay, so on the one hand, we see in the Berhetiv that there was a certain Rav who told someone, you got to stop putting on your Rabbeinu Tam. You want to put them on in private? That's your business. Public? Who do you think you are? But then on the flip side, someone else saying, it's a chiyuv to put on Rabbeinu Tam
in public.
It doesn't matter. You put them on. You have to put them on. Rabbeinu Tam, my Rashis, I do in private or public. Who cares? It's a chiyuv. I must put them on.
Isn't there a problem with the bracha then? Because the bracha you make,
On the Rashi.
You make it on Rashi, then you go home, and you figure Rabbeinu Tam at home privately. There's a big hepsek there, the bracha, which Allah says to say bracha.
Maybe you shouldn't talk so much. Maybe because you're home. I think there are some people that don't talk until
Or you could wear
Too much
you could wear the tefillin home and then change to them.
Okay, which was taka that people went to shul already wearing tefillin. Sure, and that's so you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
And even here, you see some Sfardim come into shul already wearing tefillin. Okay, source number 6, the Machzik Beracha is the Chidah. We spoke about the Chidah many times. Baruch Hashem, born in Yerushalayim, died in Italy, but was eventually reinterred on Har HaMenuchos. Machzik Beracha, Shom Kasavti, let's see. Shom Kasavti be'aniyusi achereoisi. After I saw all the words of the Achrein, the Kushta, the Milsa, the Loikos of Maran, so that the Maran is the Mechaber, is the author of the Shulchan Aruch. The Loikos of Maran, the Loyanichem ala Mechsa b'Chassidus, when you see in Sif Gimel, source number 4, when he says the only person who should do it is someone who's Muchsa b'Chassidus, Maran, i.e., Yosef Kara, the base Yosef, the Shulchan Aruch, wrote that, El Lefimash goes opposing the Eno El Suffolk. Because it's a suffix. He's going according to the passage that say that it's a suffix which is tefillin. However, and once the Psak Halacha went like Rashi and the Rambam, so then he says, yeah, okay, so Rabbeinu Tam, what do you need to put Rabbeinu Tam on for? That's why he's saying only do it if you're Muchsa b'Chassidus. And therefore, together with that, if you want to say, well, I'm worried, maybe the halach is like Rabbeinu Tam, you better be up on a very high spiritual level for that. However, says the Machzik Beracha the Chidah, loy kain ata. That is no longer the case. It is no longer the case that you need to be muchsat b'chsidis. The Gil Rabbeinu Harizal, the Tarvayot Tzrichi, because the Arizal revealed to us that both are necessary. Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. Hagam she'en mefurz b'chassidus, yochel lahanicha. You could wear them even if you're not on a high level, even if you're not mefurz b'chassidus. Ki sa'av nafshi l'kaima mitzvah kidachazi. Your neshama, your desires to fulfill the mitzvah as is seen fit. Ukvar be'eretz hatzvi zeshonim rabbis already eretz so many years. The Reva Chachamim and Talmidei Manichim Shtei Zuga is that most Chachamim and their disciples wear 2 pairs of tefillin. And even V'gam Bali Mikra v'Mishnah, even those who quote unquote only know Chumash and Halacha, Mishnah, meaning they're not Talmidei Chachamim. Halavai, by the way, to know Mikra v'Mishnah, Halavai to know that, but he's talking about the people that are not Talmidei Chachamim. Even they Yeshmein the Benichim Shtei Zugas. Some of them also. So it's mamish, says the Chidah, it's not necessary to be a person who was mefurz in Chassidus. Anybody could wear it. Source number 7, the Chidah, again, in a different sefer. He wrote like 50, 60 svarim. Birkei Yosef on Halacha. The right side. Lo yasa kinei l'mishum mukzah mefurz b'Chassidus. Maharash Halevi b'tshuva. Ksav Yad. We saw that in the Be'er Heta, source number 5 as well. Hevi b'sefer Yad Aaron. Hechmi b'zeh. He brings that there's somewhere machmir to wear Rabbeinu Tam. Says the Chidah, in our places, talking about Sardi, in our lands, most of the majority of people who grab the Torah, I guess it means Torah scholars, I guess. And even some of the working men, meaning they're not necessarily Talmidei Chachamim, manichin shtei zugois v'loi michzi kiyura. And there's no concern of arrogance because people do it. It's already become the accustomed practice. So it used to be the people did not, but now the times have changed. Says the Chidah, times have changed. Now you can wear them. You're a Talmid Chacham. You're not a Talmid Chacham. Either way, before some Chassidus, etc.
But according to that, it would seem that if you are davening in a shul or living in a place that the majority of people do not put on the second pair of tefillin, that you would not be allowed to put it on in the shul. You'd have to do that because it would be considered oil.
That might then be an issue. That's correct. That's correct. But check this out. So let's get down to what is really going on in the Shulchan Aruch, source number 4. Let's check out the Bi'urei HaGra. Everyone knows what the Gra is. 1720. He was born, passed away 1797. Right. So we're focusing on Siv Gimel in the Shulchan Aruch. Back up to source number 4, Siv Gimel. Lo yasachen al mishal muchzah b'chassidus b'chassidus. Should only do it if you're well known for piety. Ho'i al yesh oimrim. Drops the bomb right there. When the Mechaber of the Shulchan Aruch says you should only do that if you are well known as a pious individual. What's that? Look at Sif Gimel again, source number 4. Lo ya'aseh kain, don't do that, or don't do such. What's he referring to? Says the Gra, he's only referring to the Yesh Oimrim. What's the Yesh Oimrim? The Yesh Oimrim is Rashi for davening, Rabbeinu Tam after davening. That's all he's referring to. But you can wear them together at the same time. That's the first opinion of Shulchan Aruch.
I don't understand. It's more arrogant to put them on. Not more arrogant. I'm sorry. It's more. Is it better to put them on one after the other, or on both at the same time? Based on this gra, the Shulchan Aruch is warning you not to do that unless you're at this level. So that means it's a different level. That's not putting in one after the other, or one or both at the same time.
Yeah, it's perhaps more recognizable.
Yeah.
Davening is over. Everybody's wrapping up their towels until they go home, and Europe is busy putting on another pair.
And that's where that can be problematic. If you're not at that level, if you're not holding.
Wouldn't it be more problematic to see both
Yeah.
doing it at the same time?
Well, I hear. But in a sense, when you do them two at the same time, two together, it's less boilate. It doesn't stick out in the same way. As if everybody else is finishing up davening and you're busy showing that you're more frum than everybody else. Not that that's obviously not God for what it is. Oh, the tefillin you guys did, that wasn't enough. I'm gonna do more. I need more tefillin. Like, okay. So Bi'urei HaGra says that's ko'yal yesh oimrim. The words of the Shulchan Aruch not to do it unless you're muchzik mefurz b'chassidus is only referring to putting Rabbeinu Tam on after davening. You want to put it on the same time? Go ahead.
I've never seen anybody put it on at the same time.
Or you gotta
Rota Tov.
Really?
Sure.
Their boxes, yeah, their boxes.
Small,
very small.
Smaller, yeah.
Can you put two
The
boxes?
moon
up
catcher
like
speaks about that.
in one,
Wearing at the
strap?
same time or wearing that. No, wearing at the same time, and why we don't do it. He speaks about those. Let's go to source number 9. The Ois Chaim by the moon catcher, the Minchas of Lozer. We had the other week also 1868 to 1937 in Poland. Start on the right column. Shemuchzam Mufurs Bechsidis. Ein Besivkot and Akedim was a fine. Shamining Nispash Seinu. The minhag has already become well known in our countries. He was in Poland. Everybody does, not everybody. The majority of people do, like the second opinion Shulchan Aruch. They put our Rabbeinu Tam after davening. Omnam habachirim koidim nisiyosam, before they get married, einam manichin klal tefillin Rabbeinu Tam, but bachirim don't wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. Vatam shamaiti oimrim. Move now to the left column. I heard the reason why Bachar, I mean, if it's important to do, you should do it, right? Wouldn't care if you're Bachar or not. The reason why the Bacharim apparently didn't do it, ki Bacharim bevade einem bechlal muchzakim of chassidus. No offense to any Bacharim listening or watching.
We're not on the level.
Yeah, Bacharim, not muchzak of chassidus Bacharim. Omnam says the Minchas Lozer, ein ze tam maspik. That's the, you didn't convince me yet. You didn't convince me yet. I need more meat. What, just because you're married? Now all of a sudden you're a Chassidus Shayid? Give me a break. What? If you didn't learn Torah before you're married, and if you don't learn Torah after you're married, so what does getting married help you? So you can't come and tell me that Bachrim don't put on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin because they're not on the level. And who says a married guy's on the level either? What, all of a sudden something changes and you're a different person? You're the same person.
Well, can it mean maturity as opposed to something spiritual?
Yeah, he's going to talk a little bit like that. We're going to see right now.
Well, the Kohen Gadol had to be married, or he couldn't do the avodah, right?
Correct, and therefore?
So being married puts you on a different way to do avodah.
True. It's first Mishnah in Yuma. They even prepare a backup wife. Not politically correct, right? Okay. Now go to the right column. This is just kind of the way copy and paste ended up. Even though we, this is the Munkatcher speaking. We that's the Bnei Yisachar. We have the Sefer downstairs in the Chabad library. One of the famous Chassidish Rebbe. The Munkatcher was a descendant. His father Shapira or Spira, I'm not pronouncing Shapira. His father was from that dynasty, I guess, from the Bnei Yisachar. Even though he says, no, in our community, with the bar mitzvah bachrim also wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. But since some people don't, I want to just give a little bit of rationale for those people, he says, that don't have the bachrim wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, and only from the marriage. It's based on what it says in Shulchan Aruch elsewhere. That a person wearing tefillin shouldn't think about certain thoughts about the other gender. Because of Rama, says the Rama, says the Rama, that if it's impossible for you to put on the tefillin without thinking about whatever you're thinking about, mutav shaloi lahanicham. Wow. Says they're better don't put them on in the first place.
Even Rashi.
We're going to get to it. Source Mekalboy v'Chaim fine. Okay, there's another halach he says regarding holding your private parts when you go to the bathroom. You're not supposed to hold with your hand because maybe it could lead to something inappropriate. But there's no difference between whether you're married or not. However, if you are married, mutar medina, you technically are allowed to hold on to your private parts while you relieve yourself. Al kain mutar bazeh. But however, someone who's not married, who has all sorts of thoughts and hormones and whatever, so the Chachamim didn't want to say don't put on any tefillin. because they're not going to take that away from you. So Rashi, you put on. They don't want to take away the mitzvah of tefillin from you just because you have to think about whatever. So they say Rashi should put on. Skip the parentheses. And they rely that he has a cheskes kasher, as a presumption of good kosher. As long as the guy says, listen, while I'm wearing my tefillin, I'm going to do my best to not get distracted. That's v'chol between the Rashi. That's with Rashi. Why? Shem chiyuv. That's the halacha. So Rashi, I can't get out of that. Becomes Rabbeinu Tam. Mashen came between the Rabbeinu Tam, says the Munkacher. He already did what everyone else is doing. He put on tefillin. The chol sheyotzi the yotzei kvar. Medaktim achminim shelo lenich Rabbeinu Tam. So in those communities, people are medaktik not to put on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. Because in a sense, we're saying even wearing Rashis is almost a heter. Until they get married. And then he also brings another minhag in some other communities that even the Shana Rishon after they get married, you still don't put on a Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. Okay. We're running out of time, but let's go to the source number 10, Shara Koilo. Shara Koilo was the Rebbe's great-grandfather, Avram David Lavut, Hashgacha Protis, the Yartzeit also coming up, Chai Adar, the 18th of Adar. His name, I said Avram David, he was born in 1814, passed away in 1890 in Nikolaev in Russia. He was born at the times of the Mittler Rebbe, who's the second Rebbe of Chabad. He was primarily a chassid of the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe of Lubavitch, but then lived also to the Rebbe Marash and the Rebbe Rashab. So he lived through 4 Rebbeim of Lubavitch. And when the Rebbe published, so he wrote, I think, 3 or 4 Sfarim. One of them is called Kav Noki, which is a sefer on Hilchos Gittin. And the Rebbe published it in 1950. And the first page or so is a biography that the Rebbe wrote of his great-grandfather. Wrote a brief biography about him, which I skimmed through it before the shir. He was a Rav in a town called Romanovka, wherever that was exactly, somewhere in Russia, until he was appointed by the Tzemach Tzedek to lead a kollel. Then around the age of 35, this is often an introduction from the biography that the Rebbe wrote in the introduction to Kav Noki, when he published it. Around the age of 35, he was appointed the Rav in Nikolaev, which was a chosh of a city with lots of chosh of people there. And he was the Rav for about 40 years until he passed away. In fact, the government liked him so much, I don't know why, just what it says in the biography there that I read. The government liked him so much that they appointed him as the official Rav, I guess the government appointee of Nikolaev and some 40 surrounding shtetlach as well in the Kherson region in Russia. Fine. Anyway, this sefer we have here, Shana Koilo, is basically a commentary on the Alter Rebbe's Siddur, explaining the different nuschos and so forth. So he writes, Masik Shom, it's obviously part of a longer piece, Shemizman ha'arizal ve'elach, from the times of the Arizal and on, we don't have boti dinim anymore the way we used to, proper boti dinim. We don't even have these other like a base, different types of based in basically. So therefore, so we can't go against that Arizal. The Arizal said that we're Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. That's what he said. We have no ability to go against that. Uminar Torah. What does that say?
Adam, what's it?
Kol Adam, that's what it said. Uminar Torah, this is powerful words. Uminar Torah, Kol Adam HaRoitza L'Kayim Mitzvahs Tefillin Tikunoi, King of a Siddur. That's the way the Alter is writing in the Siddur. Mechuyuv L'Nich Tefillin Rashi Ude Rabbeinu Tam. He's obligated to wear both pairs of tefillin. Ad amoid hakoyin leurim v'tumim. Hashgacha Pratis to this week's parsha the Zava. Givaldik. I didn't realize that. Okay, we're moving through it now. It's already 9, but we're going to now see a little part of the Farbrengen from the Rebbe, Purim, 1976. My first Purim on planet Earth. Misha Yishal me'oifena nogan atam chulu. Anyone who's asking me about the conduct until now, up until this point, there were many chassidim that did wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, many. And in Chabad, not so many, some did. Many people that they felt that they really wanted to wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin would ask the Rebbe, can I wear them? I think sometimes the answer was yes. I think sometimes the answer was no. And I think sometimes the Rebbe didn't answer. Not sure exactly. So the Rebbe says, if you're asking me about this, here's what I have to say. Should you be wearing Rabbeinu Tam? Yadul Mefursum, it's well known. Back in the good old days, which some say the good old days weren't so good, but it was a different reality in the world, different state of affairs. Nobody read the newspaper. People didn't have so much secular awareness and study and knowledge as they do nowadays. That by learning secular wisdom, if not for Parnasa, chapter 8 of Tanya, it defiles your intellect. Unless you know how to use it for the right purposes. That's the reason why the Rambam and the Ramban and others did learn secular wisdom, because they used it for a higher purpose. Or like nowadays, maybe a person wants to get a college degree for a job and so forth. But Vakiva Chakain, since we're now in a different world where we don't just read newspapers, but right, we have the entire in our fingertips. Since our minds can unfortunately become defiled or corrupted based on all the newspapers that we read and everything else that we are aware of, we need extra strength in the avodas hamoichin, in our intellectual service, which is accomplished primarily by tefillin. Like I said, that the purpose of tefillin is to enslave the heart to the mind, both of them to Hashem. The kavana, the intention of tefillin, is not like other mitzvahs. Rather, it's like sukkah. If you don't have the kavana, you didn't do the mitzvah. So you need the kavana. Okay, fine. Furthermore, we are living in a very dark, galus, doubled and redoubled darkness. And everyone agrees that Haman and all his henchmen are just as strong and even stronger than they were in the past. They haven't gone away, unfortunately. Ella, it's not an actual Haman, thankfully. It's in our minds, it's in our thoughts. God saved us from the actual Haman. But the Haman's in our minds. Haman is like a like a virus in your computer. It infects the hard drive, so to speak. So there's a great necessity for strengthening ourselves with the tefillin, like the Gemara says. We had Gemara Megillah, source number 1, and they'll fear you. Both opinions. So we need to, and the Rebbe is speaking also about how speaks earlier in the Sikha, the Farbrengen. Mishloach monois is plural. Matanois le'evyonim is plural. So we should have more tefillin too. We need to do more of everything, more tefillin, more mitzvahs, more tzedakah, more of everything. He says, part of the inyan of Purim is not to give one matana, not to give one mishloach. It's more matanis and more mishloach. Yeah. So to tefillin. The Rebbe says people are listening to this Farbrengen, the hookups. People listen to the live Farbrengen, so let's make sure they know. He says. So second paragraph, last paragraph on the page. Kol elu sheshalu es li'oides hanach the tefillin Rabbeinu Tam. Anyone who asked me, may I wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin? Rebbe, can I wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin? And adayin lo hispik az mal anan. If I didn't have time to answer you yet. And those of you who want to ask me in the future, you don't need to ask. And if you ask me, I don't have to answer.
What's chesed?
Like to remove, basically. It's written already in many svarim. We saw some of them from the Chidah, from the different for the Ber Hativ, quote someone. The final conclusion is should be Amenu Elut Sorech L'nech Al Pi Din tefillas the Rashi v'la'achri zeh tefillin the Rabbeinu Tam. V'lochin, you have to wear both, he says.
We're talking about achar to one after the other.
Yeah. V'lochin kol ha'roitza tov elav brachos. If you want to do it, tov elav brach, you'll be blessed. And when should you start? Tomorrow morning you should start. I have a friend who, at one point, I don't usually do this. I was harassing him. I think I mentioned this recently. I was harassing him. He should start wearing Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin. I've never asked anybody in my life except for this guy about Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin. I don't know why. I feel like leave people alone, right? For some reason, you got to get Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin. And he said, no. And one day he asked Rebbe Weinberger, should I wear Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin? And he said, yeah, you should. When should I start? Today. Or maybe he said tomorrow. Okay. Skip the paragraph. The Rebbe did say that, by the way, that you should only wear the Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin if you have them accessible to you every day. By wearing the extra tefillin, he says, this adds to roll kol ami ha'aretz. The nations of the world are going to see, they're going to fear us. Okay. So we don't have, it's already after 9 o'clock, so we're not going to read the rest of it. We can read another time maybe. But that's a little bit about, again, there's a lot more to talk about, the historical evidence, and they found, I think, Rashi tefillin in the Cheskel Kever.
Mentioned somewhere here.
Yeah, it is mentioned there somewhere, right? I thought it was actually quoted there, and I missed it.
It was.
I thought I did put it on the page there, but when we were reading it, I didn't see it. And then they found that
It's in the Ben Ish Chai.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's the part I skipped. You're right. Givaldic. But then other places they found Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin. Maybe that's because they were Geniza, they threw them away. Maybe that's why they're there. So there's all such debates and discussions about this.
It doesn't prove it. It doesn't prove that the only one he gave.
Right.
But it seems like they're both good and both necessary.
Well, that's the Rebbe's conclusion, clearly. And
not
that's the
mutually
conclusion of
exclusive.
others, and it's obviously not everybody's conclusion. There are many, Yidden that don't wear Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin. I'm biased, so Shir was also biased, I guess. I mean, I tried to, it's in the Gra reads it, right? That the whole thing of not, because what I've heard a lot of people say to me, you don't wear Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin unless you're on a high level. Good, but the Gra says that that's only referring to the second thing in Shulchan Aruch. He's not saying you shouldn't wear Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin. You shouldn't do it one after the other publicly unless you're on a high level.
I don't think the girl wore Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin.
I don't think so either.
Oh,
okay. Even okay. No,
So he wore he wore tefillin all day long.
Yeah. So that I saw another source for that. I don't remember where. That if you're one of the people who wears a tefillin all day long, you should wear Rashi. I don't remember where I saw that. In any event, the topic was covered the 50 years of Purim when the Rebbe spoke about this, and it's caught like wildfire in many camps and communities. And the shir was not meant to convince anybody of anything, just to share some geshmaka sources. Those who don't wear. If you want to wear, you start tomorrow on the condition that you can get them and wear them regularly, which means every day except of course for Shabbos and Yontif. And if you're going to wear Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin, it's not to wear Chol Moed either. That could be another shir.
It seems from the diagram here that there's a difference between a lefty and a right. I never realized it. A lefty and a righty tefillin, not in just the straps go this way, in the design of the tefillin itself.
Well, the tefillin shel yad is different.
Right. In terms of and obviously not. There's no such thing as a lefty shel rosh.
Right. That's correct. You're 100% correct. And we didn't touch upon the tefillin of Moshe Rabba and Ravid. That's a different discussion. But you don't generally find that for various reasons. Anyway, Yashkot everyone for coming again. The learning.
Jonas Hapsik is coming, by the way.
Oh, we have to.
Yeah.
So the learning again was in schus of Miriam Bas Shmuel Yortzeit right now. Tes Adar, which is also the day the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, came to America, Mustama with Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin as well. In 1941, was it right? No. The day the Friedrich came to America was Tes Adar, and also the learning was in schus of Shimon ben Meir Yortzeit Yud Gimel Adar and Ashkacha Pradas. We might as well mention once again that the Rebbe's great grandfather, the Shara Kairos, the Bavram David, his Yortzeit also coming up. Chai Adar. We should all have a feilich in Purim. Like Hudim Haisa Oire V'Simcha V'Sasim V'Kar Kain Tiyalonu.